Let's go. Our guest today is a submarine veteran turned data analyst, YouTuber, and digital creator. He completed his bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering at Ole Miss before going on to serve 7 years as an officer in the Navy, where he was part of the submarine force. During the first half of his naval career, he was deployed 4 times and led engineering teams while there. And in the second half of his career, he was part of the training department for naval nuclear propulsion programs. After his military career, he returned to school for his MBA, where he specialized in business analytics before becoming a business analyst and pivoting into data analytics. Data nerds, please help me in welcoming to the show the number one data analyst on YouTube, sorry Alex, Luke Barousse. Luke, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be on the show today, man. I appreciate having you here.
Heck yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. This is quite an honor. I'm a fan of what you're doing, fan of the data science happy hour that you do. So thank you so much for having me.
All right, on man. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here, man. I've been liking the stuff you've been putting out, man. It's so dope, man. It's got this complete like cinematic quality to it, and the way things are put together is so clean, man. And I can't help but notice that you're not wearing your blue flannel right now. I feel like I see you with the blue flannel. Talk to us about
I,
that.
I actually debated putting on the blue flannel. The problem is I get so like I wear the blue flannel because it's sort of like the persona or whatever. But I started wearing it because it was winter. But it's like it's still pretty warm here, and sometimes I get like I'll get nervous in these podcasts and stuff, and I'll start turning flush and start sweating, and they'll be like, "What is Luke lying or something?" It's like, no, I'm just like I'm getting a little angsty. So I was like, okay, I gotta wear a t-shirt. So I apologize for not having the flannel on for this interview.
Oh, almost didn't recognize you, man. Almost didn't recognize you. But you say you kind of do it for the persona. That's interesting because I feel like when I go into this podcast, most people catch me now in the beginning of the live stream, counting down, breathing in, breathing out, and getting into the zone, saying "Let's go." And for me, that's a cue for me to kind of put on this persona of the podcaster version of myself. Talk to
Yeah.
us about this persona and how the blue flannel kind of facilitates that.
Yeah, so it's like, well, I'm naturally like an introvert. I'm not big into communicating, not big into, I shouldn't say not big into communicating. I'm not big into, uh, getting with large amounts of people or whatever. I'm more like small groups get together. Maybe I'll like, if I know you well, I can talk and hang out. And so that's really where like the YouTube channel and everything, it's like me, I can be in front of a camera by myself and really rehearse what I want to say and then go about explaining it in this fashion. And the blue flannel was really just, I started wearing a mountain bike here I live in Arkansas, and it was cold one winter. So I started wearing flannels. I'm like, I really like these. And then I wore like a video and I got some comments on it. And I was like, I'm just gonna keep on wearing this because I'm like, I don't know, like Blues Clues back whenever we were like, I was sort of older at the time, but like people like that, they wore the same outfit every day, and it's like, oh, like you think of like cartoons like Doug and stuff like that. Everybody wore the same outfit all the time, and you get that recognition from it. And so that's really been my thought process and I have a ton of flannels, and I wash them very frequently. I don't just have one and just have this dirty flannel. But that was just sort of the idea to sort of, model it off of these TV shows we watched as kids.
Nice, man. That's pretty awesome. And interesting thing that you said you're an introvert, and I think that's interesting because I myself am also a introvert as hell, like
Really?
super introverted. Yeah, man.
With wanting to like the host, like those like live streams like you do, I don't know how you do that as an introvert.
Yes, because I got to go into the character, man. Like, and it's difficult because like my career trajectory now is taking me into developer relations, and being in developer relations means that not only do I have to like kind of travel to these events and be at these networking events and just at conferences and stuff, and the conferences have networking events. I just don't know what to do in those large groups. Like, it's very very uncomfortable for me, just to go out there and with a huge group of people and try to be like this social butterfly. It's just not me. But very much like you, small group settings tend to work best for me. Do you think that introversion leads to like a certain kind of favored method of content creation? Like, for example, like I love podcasting, like I love doing this medium of communication, but doing tweets and doing like LinkedIn posts, just I feel like it takes so much out of me. Talk talk to us about your kind of your experience with that.
Yeah, that's a good question. Like so, like LinkedIn and stuff like that. I'm very similar in that. That takes a lot of energy. So I don't post. I tried to for a little bit, posting on LinkedIn. It takes so much, like, because I have to like prove, and being an introvert like you, right? I want to make sure that the message that I'm putting across, if I'm going to say something, I want to make sure that it's succinct, to the point, and has value. And so if I'm making even like a sentence long LinkedIn post, it's taken like, I'm just like finessing over all the little things to make sure it's just the right point that I'm trying to get across. So yeah, I would agree actually, but I'm a little bit unlike you. I shy away from podcasts and stuff like this because it's not rehearsed and stuff like that. So I'm like a little nervous, like I'm out of my element right here. Whereas like my YouTube videos and stuff like that, I can be very scripted and have a storyline that I know I want to go across. So, yeah, it definitely does, I think, shape it or whatever. Do you feel like you're live, like you're like the data science happy hour? Has that helped you with like, your like in your personal job with having to deal with people with like introversion?
Yeah, I think it definitely has helped me. Just being able to kickstart conversations from nothing and just being able to kind of figure out where to take it. And the last few episodes I've recorded, like you, I'm very meticulous and plan out my interviews well in advance. Typically, I'll like send the guest a bunch of questions that I've had thought of beforehand. But lately, I've just been doing it all just unscripted, unrehearsed, and it's kind of in uncharted territory. And it feels scary not having that safety net.
Yeah.
But it pushes you.
Well, I mean, I'm curious to see how it goes and how you think. I watch some other podcasters that have shifted to this approach as well, and they feel like it's paid dividends because then you can allow your guest or whatever to sort of lead the way of what's interesting them at the moment, vice what you feel is interesting at the moment. So yeah. I think I'm looking forward to that. I like the strategy that you have.
Thank you, man. Thank you. So talking about content creation, man. I listened to an interview, or maybe I read it in the text version of an interview, where you got into creating content because you were trying to just scale your knowledge, where people were just asking you at work, like, wait, how the hell do you do this cool stuff? And then you just started making videos and teaching people. Talks about how that happened and then the evolution of that till now.
Yeah. So I mean, as like a fellow data nerd, we just like we want to automate stuff as much as possible. Like why do something that takes an hour whenever you can take like 10 days to automate it, and and it takes even more effort. But yeah, so I would have friends reach out to me and just ask me to like, hey, what's this Python thing? Can you explain it to me? And so I would routinely just have these like Zoom sessions just like this with them, and basically walk through, show them everything I know and how I'm using it. And it got, sort of repetitive. And I'm like, man, I could just, I could bottle this up and put this into a video and make it to where it's more of an automated process. And so that was like one of my first things that sort of contributed to why I got into YouTube. And then also the second reason was I was in my first role, I was basically working as a data analyst and didn't know that I was a data analyst. And so seeing like Alex, the analyst content, and then more specifically like Ken G, it was like, oh, this is what actually I'm doing. This is what I want to pursue towards, because I was actually on a path towards management. And I didn't really want to go towards that. I wanted to stay in the analytical side, just like learning and being sort of like an individual contributor. And so basically those two things: one, I didn't want to automate this process of teaching others, and two, I want to be able to share, like, I had this struggle too. I didn't know what this was, and I found it out, and I want to share this with the world. And so it sort of was like the combination of both those things that led to this this YouTube channel.
I think more people are data scientists or data analysts than they think they are.
Yes.
They just might not have like the official title of data scientist, data analyst. But they're doing the work. They're doing like the work. They're using the tools. Like, they just don't have that title, and they might pursue opportunities just for that title. What do you got to say to someone who might be sitting there doing the work as a data scientist, but maybe, I don't know, their title is like operations analyst or something non-data sciencey? Should they pursue a job in data science, or should they just kind of stay in the lane. I don't know if that sounded right, but I'd
Yeah.
love to get your take on that.
No, that's I think they should go where their passion is. And it's interesting that you say that because more recently, like well, you can tell by my swag I'm wearing right now. I'm into CrossFit, and so I go to my CrossFit gym. Nobody really knows that I have like a YouTube channel there, which I very much like that. Um, but it's funny. I'll be talking to them, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I'm a," they don't label themselves as a data analyst, but they tell me like, "Oh, I'm in Excel all single day. I'm like making these reports," and they have this like this title of like operations management analyst, and so they're not like truly data analysts, but they love what they're doing. And um, what I would like is, I guess your answer to your question is sort of like a two-part thing. One, I think they should, whatever they're passionate about, they should continue to doing. But I feel like my channel, what I'm trying to do is sort of inform them that like, hey, you're actually a data analyst. And because I hear a lot of the problems that these people at my gym have with like using tools and the problems that they have, but they don't know how to solve those because they haven't identified the group of people to connect with that are having similar problems. They think they're in they think they're alone in this journey, and they don't realize that actually so many people are data analysts and also data scientists and
So, what moving in from going from working or studying mechanical engineering, going to the Navy, and then like you mentioned, having to learn these tools, uh, like was there a lot of overlap from what you studied in school and what you did in the Navy to then all these data science tools, or did you have to upskill? And if so, what was that upskilling process kind of like?
yeah. No, so that was I would say pretty much everything I learned prior to work was pretty much irrelevant. So because I was undergrad mechanical engineering major, that helped with my time in the Navy. Like the engineering helped with it, and so I guess I'll take aspects from everything. So the bachelor's in engineering really helps with like my problem solving, and so I think anytime I encounter like a data analytical problem or issue, I go back to my engineering on how to problem solve. And then for the Navy, um, it was a lot about application, leading people, and a lot about in my second half of my time in the Navy about teaching others and about basically communicating and helping people get to their goals of what they need to learn. So my time now in YouTube about teaching, I really draw a lot of I draw a lot from that experience from having to teach like classes and stuff like that. But as you can see, like both those things, like not really helpful at all in the actual data analyst space. And I did go to the Navy I did go to get my master's after the Navy, and they did teach us a little bit of Excel, but really it didn't. They really were so focused on Excel, and they didn't like branch out and try to teach us that many other skills. And so it was really, I mean, even as I talked to a lot of my data nerd subscribers, it was them going out on their own, trying to find that motivation and then teaching yourself and then using it. And I think the hardest part too is like whenever you're in this role, so like my first role, they knew they had this problem. They wanted to solve it. They wanted this like analytical dashboard, but they didn't know like my boss, because it's like I wasn't like a true data analyst role. My boss, she didn't know what solutions were available. So I had to actually go out and research and come up with it, and finally came to find out, oh, Power BI is going to be like the best solution for us to build like a dashboard. And then it was up to me to learn it and then apply it in the job. And so I think that's been a lot from hearing from others of what the journey is like, is going out, actually learning the tool and skill on your own and implementing it, whether it be a project or in a job.
How do you learn? Do you have like a kind of like a process to make it easier to learn something? Because in this field, I feel like you got to learn so much. Like every day, I feel like I'm learning. I feel like I've been out of grad school for 10 years, but I think I've learned enough to get like another graduate degree in something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because just learning every day. But there's so much information out there. There's so much to like sift through. There's so much that I want to learn. How do you manage that?
Yeah. I think that's all about what I found more recently is actually application of what I'm learning into Excuse me, I'm burping right now because I have a little bit too much bubbly. Uh, application of what I'm learning, that's what I found to be most successful. So I was like, when I first started with as a data analyst, I was on data camp, and I was just like chugging through all the courses that I could take and just like pounding through them, trying to learn as much as possible. And it was good because I learned a lot. But I think one of the things that I lacked was actually I thought I was pretty good. I was like taking these courses, and I was also like taking notes at the same time. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'm doing something. But I'll be honest, most of that stuff, unfortunately, like I forgot and don't really recall anymore. What I do remember though is things that I've learned and then immediately applied in projects. Or if I'm doing a project and have a problem and then go learn something to help solve it, like this, like I gave in that first example with that Power BI case that I had for my boss, I had to use the Power BI in order to solve the need for my boss. And now I'm like, I feel pretty confident in my ability of Power BI. And I didn't really take many formal classes on Power BI in order to learn it. So it's really that application. And that's been like my biggest thing. And anytime I go about something new, so like this YouTube, like anytime I'm like, you compliment on the way I'm doing my stylish stuff, but I'm always learning and implementing new stuff in my videos. And that's how I find people should do it in their data science work. Learn something, implement it immediately.
Yeah, kind of like just-in-time learning or like on-demand learning. Like
Yes.
when you, yeah.
Is that like a thing? JIT?
JIT
I mean, I know that's in supply chain, but
it's also something in computer science just-in-time compilation, which I just recently learned about. Speaking of just recently learned about, like, I feel like I don't know much about data science, even though I've been in data science for quite some time. Like there's definitely gaps and holes in my knowledge, but I think that just kind of pushes me to learn more. Before the show, we're talking about how we're both kind of like the more we go in this career, the more we figure out we don't know anything.
Yes.
How do you stay comfortable with that?
Yeah, so I just that's like, I mean, I think you have to be comfortable with the uncomfortable, because I'll routinely get questions about like, they'll have very minuscule minuscule questions about like, well, what do you think about like, the complexity of evaluating this type of function, what's the cost on the machine for this type of performance, and it's like, I'm not in the weeds that much. I just like to focus on the basics, and then from there go. And I guess to answer your question is, I like just focusing on the basics. What is the minimum required to get the job done? And then if I need to actually focus more to like get even heavy into like coding or something like that to solve a problem, I'll go and do that. But really, like, that's why I've learned so much, like especially for my YouTube channel, in just focus on like, hey, I'm always harping on like the core skills for data analysts of SQL, Excel, some programming languages and Viz tools, and focusing on like those 4 things. And it's really helped me with learning a lot with just focusing on those basics and teaching those basics to others. And then it also just helps with not preventing from getting overwhelmed from how much there is to learn. Because I mean, it's too. I mean, I can see on you have it looks like you have a lot of data science books behind you. I have quite a few behind me. It's like, I mean, you could study this all day, and it's great. It's always I think it's also motivating, because then you can always continue to try to. You have something to aim towards, like something you can always improve in your knowledge. But if you think you're going to learn it all, you're not. Like,
a lot of these books have been left unread and serve only as a reminder to myself that you may think you know something, but really there's a lot more you don't know.
Right. Well, a lot of my books get started, and then it's like, oh, okay, I don't know enough on this. On like, oh, this is using Python and way more of a complex that I need to know. Mm-hmm. I need to shift to a Python book now, and then I can come back to this.
I feel like that too sometimes. A lot. I've been like diving deep into computers. Not super deep, but I've been getting really interested in and learning computer vision recently. And so a lot of stuff I'll be reading something, I'm like, oh well, that's 3 more things I gotta go read and study about. But it's okay, man. Like it feels good to just always be learning something new, man.
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
such
I
a-
was. Yeah, that's a good point because I was reading the. I love that book. The machine learning book. Oh, I have it right here.
Andrew Burkhoff book or whatever.
Yeah,
This 100 page.
hands-on machine learning. Hands-on machine
Okay.
learning with scikit-learn.
Yeah.
And I read that about 2 or 3 years ago, but I started it
Yeah.
and then got like a chapter in, and they were using the shell or like command line to do stuff, and like they were doing stuff with the command line that I was like, I mean, I thought we only needed to know Python. I didn't know I needed a command line too. And so I was like, okay, well, I have to take a break from this book and I have to go learn more about command line before I come back to it. And it was like, it took me like a few months to get through that book.
Yeah, I love working out of the command line, man. It's been like the hacker vibes are real.
Yes.
Working out of there.
I love whenever people are around and you get to use the command line and you're just like typing like, a little CD, PWD. I just like, and like people are like, oh my gosh, it's the Matrix. You're so impressive. And you're like, this isn't really that. I don't really know that much about it, but it's fun.
So going back to the core skills, you mentioned core skills, and there are the obvious core skills in this field, and I think we can all rattle off the obvious core skills. What have you found to be some non-obvious core skills that would lead to success in a career as a data analyst? And just real quick, shout out to a couple people watching on LinkedIn. Matt McFarlane says he loves your videos on R, Python, and Julia. And then
Heck yeah.
Shika says, thank you for your transparency. I'm a newbie and sometimes it's an intimidating industry.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, for those newbies who might be watching, those non-obvious core skills, what would you say they are?
Yeah, non-obvious core skills are really what I don't say it. Well, I mean, I do say it directly in my videos, but I try to portray it in my videos is those soft skills of communicating and talking. So I just had a video come out today, and all the people that I talked to had just landed entry-level data analyst jobs, and they had skills. They were all right with their skills, and my skills are all right too. I'm not trying to hate on them. I'm just saying their strong suit, all of them, when I'm talking to them, was their communication skills and their ability to talk about a problem and be able to communicate that problem, because they shared their problem of becoming data analyst and how they achieved that goal. And just that alone, I was like, oh, I would hire you as a data analyst just by your communication. Like, I don't even care really what your SQL and Excel skills are or whatever. Just by the fact that I can have a conversation with you and communicate with you is just like the number one thing. And obviously it's so transferable to other things, and probably hopefully that's not a cop out to your answer, but people don't realize how invaluable. And so so many times I hear people like, I'm a teacher, but I don't really have the skills. And I'm like, you're a teacher, but like you of like crazy kid have their attention. Like, if you can do that, you could probably be a data analyst. Like, it's probably going to be actually a lot easier, actually.
Yeah, dude, I was a high school math teacher for a couple of years, way back
really?
in the days. Yeah, back in like 2000, from 2008 to 2010. When I graduated with my first undergraduate degree, I'd had like an abysmal GPA, like 2.1 something, so I couldn't and back then people cared about GPAs on a job application, so I couldn't land a job.
Yeah.
But I could become a teacher. So I took a bunch of exams, whatever. Started teaching high school level math, but I taught it to the at-risk student population. So I'm from California originally, and California is we've got something called continuation school. I'm not sure if the other states have it or what it's like in other places, but continuation school is okay. If you get kicked out or expelled from high school, then you go to continuation school. If you get kicked out or expelled from continuation school, then you got to go to academic recovery. And that's what I taught, was academic recovery.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, yeah, so there's a good mix of students there. Students who, had gotten expelled, students who just got a juvie, and just this wide range of kids. Believe it or not, there's actually kids who went to this program to get ahead in high school and graduate faster because everything was self-paced, and you kind of complete these packets and then you earn your credits by turning in the packets. Um,
So you have
and
like a very mix of people there. You have some like super motivated people and some
yeah,
super unmotivated people.
yeah,
That's a
yeah,
hell of a bell curve you got there.
yeah, yeah. It was interesting, and just teaching at that high school level math is kind of when I discovered my love of mathematics. Like I was like, oh shit, like I'm pretty good at this. I really enjoy it, and I started like googling careers for people who are good at math, and then I came across like actuarial sciences, and that's where I was like, all right, cool, I'm gonna go and become an actuary, and then had to start way at the bottom, dude. Like, because my GPA was so low that I couldn't get into grad school, so I had to go back to community college, take all of these courses, like from pre-calculus, like trigonometry, to calculus 1, 2, 3, 4, and then all this other stuff. Redo all those classes, get a good GPA, then finally get into grad school. Um,
So
but
you're like a mathematician now.
yeah,
You know your
yeah,
math.
yeah. I studied math in grad school, math and stats, and then when I was with actuary, there was a lot of exams that we had to take, and all of the exams were by hand. Like the only calculator we can use was like this one right here. This is the actual calculator that got me through the actuarial exam. So it's just like the TI 30XS, and so we're having to do everything by hand. All this calculus by hand and stuff. So I really drilled in the concepts. But man, yeah, I forgot where I was going with that. But let's go back to core skills. Talk about communications. Well, I mean, the technical skills can be learned, obviously. Like people like you are teaching it. Alex is teaching them. Ken, Avery, like all our friends are teaching the technical skills. And I feel like that definitely can't be taught because there's people teaching it. But stuff like communication, like we're talking about us being introverts. Like I couldn't read a book to teach me how to communicate.
Yeah.
I just had to somehow develop those skills. Like, do I need, I guess, tips for learning how to become a better communicator?
Yeah. As like tips and what I think it's hard with like the day and age that we're in, right? Especially with this like shift to remote everything, remote school, remote work, and this shift in less like interaction. So I was really privileged growing up, especially like in college. I was bad at communicating, bad at talking in front of people. So because of that, I took an extra class on public speaking in order to work on that. And it helped out like a little bit. It wasn't until I got in the Navy and was like forced to talk about the time that I was doing training. I was basically forced to like lead trainings with like 100 individuals, talk about a topic that I didn't even know about, but I had to stand up there for an hour and be comfortable. So I would just like prep until I had to go give that training, and then be like the entire time just be sweating bullets because I'm like, oh, I hope I don't have to say something wrong, or I hope I don't say anything wrong. And that was really, that experience right there was what pushed me and helped me with my communicating in groups and stuff like that. But like I said, that experience was sort of unique to me, and I was placed in situations where I could take advantage of those type of things. Some people don't have that nowadays, and they have to get more creative with how they're going to do it. And so I think you can go about it a few different ways. But what I always like am pushing for, obviously, like I'm on social media, but personally do think that social media is one of the best ways that you can go about working on those communication skills, because you can have like literally direct feedback on this. Specifically with something like YouTube, right? You could make a project, put it on YouTube, and YouTube will provide you analytics of a retention curve that tells you like how people are paying attention to your video, when they're dropping off, when they're not interested. And you could use that analytics to your to your advantage. And in my case, right, I've used it. Like if you watch some of my first videos 2 years ago, and to where they are today, they've changed. My communication style has actually changed over that time. And a lot of that has been due to that data that I'm receiving of like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be saying these types of words. Maybe I should use this instead, or maybe I need to work more on the storyline. So YouTube's like a visual example, but I think a visual example via video, but I think you could also work on that communication style with it, whether it be writing. They have things like medium.com, or you want to work on like short form stuff or whatever. You could do Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever. And so I'm always trying to push people, like, use social media to, like, one, push your stuff out there. You can work on your communication style, and then two, it's an added benefit because then from there you can get that feedback and find out, one, improve yourself, but two, are you working on the right stuff?
Talking about using YouTube analytics, I'm wondering, what's an example of like an interesting finding from your own YouTube analytics that you think might have contributed to some of the success you've had over the last year or so?
Which I'm trying to think what, there's been a lot of different like learnings that I've had from it. What I've found personally, so is having as short and succinct as a story as possible, is best. So is it Mark Twain that says, I was going to write you a,
shorter letter,
short letter, but I ran out of time, so I'll write you a long letter instead. And that's really my biggest problem, especially when I first started. So I would do like a tutorial or whatever, and the video would be like 30 minutes long. And you go watch it. There were some aspects of it that were very repetitive in nature, and I could see it with the retention as well. And so that's really been one of my biggest lessons, is finding where I'm being repetitive. And then also, this is more getting in the details than we need to know, but if I'm going to show something visually, do I need to also show it audibly? Like, I show my face as excited, like, oh, I got excited about this. Like, oh, I probably don't need to say that. Main point of saying that is, how can I be as concise as possible while also communicating and keeping somebody engaged in the story? And so often I receive and I'm so appreciative. I receive a lot of love from people in messages, but sometimes people will write like this, like 2-page document on their their story and everything and how they need help. And I'm like, okay, we gotta if I have to read every one of these, I'm going to be reading this all day. Like, how can you be succinct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely see that in my own reaction to when I come across text and it's like a wall of text. I have like this negative physical reaction. Like, I physically get tired. I'm like, oh, I can't read all of that.
You haven't even read it yet. You're just like,
yeah,
and you don't even know what's needed until you get halfway through. It's like hidden in there. It's like, tell me what you need immediately.
Are you creating any other formats other than YouTube video? Have you thought about, or I don't know, like, I've went to your Medium profile, and maybe if it was a different Medium profile, but there wasn't much blog writing there. So have you considered taking your scripts from your YouTube video and making them into blog posts or anything like that?
Yeah, regarding that one specifically, somebody took my Google certificate video and turned it into a Medium blog post.
Nice.
Illegally. And they did really good on Medium with it. And then somebody told me, one of my subscribers told me, it was like, hey, you're, they completely reused every single word. Weren't even creative about changing it. Even SQL was wrong. It was SEQUEL, like a sequel or whatever. Anyway, we got that taken down. But I guess to answer your question, actually, is I have, and I'm a one-man show right now. I do everything myself, and it's just, I'm stretched too thin. I've tried to do, Instagram reels and shorts. And I get distracted, and it doesn't lead to the ultimate goal. And it's think of Michael Jordan, right? What did he he just focused on his task. He just focused on that one thing of basketball, becoming the best at that. And so that's really my mindset. Yeah. I want to be able to bring people on in the future and branch into different social medias. But right now, since I'm a one-man show, I'm just it's taking a lot of stumbling to figure this out. But I'm okay, I just have to focus on this one thing, be the very best I can at it. When I can get other people, I'll start branching out to other things. But until then, I can't do it.
Yeah, I could definitely resonate with that feeling. I mean, I'm a one-man show as well. But then all I do is podcasting, right? That's the one thing that I know I could I've put in the reps. Like I've done over 320 of these type of things, and like I've put in the reps. And I know this is something I could do really well, and I'm doubling down on that. But it's hard doing other things. Hard trying to focus on this stuff. You mentioned you get distracted. Is I'm an adult who just recently found out that I have ADHD, which explains a lot
Yeah.
about why I get distracted and a whole host of other things, my personality quirks. Is that distractions, like, is it stemming from something like that, or is this just general distractibility, I guess, for lack of a better word?
Yeah. No, that's I I found out I have like a obsessive. No, I don't have ADHD or anything. I don't think I do. I don't know. I definitely have attention issues or whatever. But I have like an obsessive issue, and so I like to hyper focus on things and like work things as best as I can in order to try to improve it. And because of that, I'm actually really bad at multitasking, and I can't. Oh, if I try to do like, okay, I'm gonna work on this YouTube video for a little bit, and then now I have to change my mind. Okay, and now I'm gonna work on this, like this data science project and like solve this Python script. If I have to do that in a day, I can't, because it already takes me like it takes me like 30 minutes an hour before I'm actually in the work mode to start like making a video or whatever, or an hour before I'm in this coding project. So I have to make sure, because of how long it takes me to get in the zone, to make sure that I'm limiting everything and just focusing on one thing and one thing alone. So
Yeah, definitely resonate with that, man. Like,
what do you do for battling? So you found out about this. What are you doing any strategies for this?
yeah, mostly. I mean, I'm reading this book, Taking Charge of Adult ADHD. That's
Oh, okay.
giving me a lot of tips, and then just, yeah, it's tough, man. I don't want to like take medication or anything like that. I don't think I'm that severe, but I'm trying to find things that work for me. And if anything, this diagnosis and whatever supplementary material I've come across has helped me kind of better understand myself and figure out what works. But very much resonate with that fact of just focusing on something. Like when I'm on something, like my entire attention has to be consumed by that one thing. Otherwise, like I'm switching tabs in my mind far too quickly, and I'm just getting nothing done.
Yes.
But what's worked for me is I don't know, man. I used to do like this. I'm a self-help junkie, a recovering self-help addict. So I would take prescriptions from all these other people and just, Robin Sharma says, do this for this 5 a.m. club routine. I'd do that. Another book says, try to do this, and I'd follow that.
Yeah.
And recently I've just kind of taken all that and just deconstructed everything and just like let it all fall apart and have rebuilt stuff using those principles for myself. What I found has worked for me is just setting a quick intention for the day. Like I'll spend maybe 15-20 minutes just doing a quick journal for the day and say, okay, this is what needs to happen today to move things forward. It used to be I'd fill out this like a sheet that had Monday through Saturday on there, and then I'd put a bunch of stuff every day, Monday through Saturday. I want to do these things, and then the end of the week would come and a lot of that stuff was left unchecked, and I just feel shitty about myself.
Yeah, you feel awful. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's horrible. And it's like, okay, well, instead of feeling good about what I did accomplish, I felt bad about everything I didn't accomplish. So now instead of doing it at the beginning of the week, I just start the day. I'm like, all right, cool. This is what needs to happen, and just really just think through. Journaling, writing has helped, I guess. Long story short.
I think it's I very much resonate with that, because I do a very similar approach. I have one major thing that I'm going to accomplish that day. I like having lists. Like I see people with like these to-do lists, and it's like, every single day they're like, I'm going to do all these things. It's like, I have this one thing. Like yesterday was like, finish up editing my video, and that was it. And I mean, I did other stuff, but that was like the one goal that I knew I had to do. And same to you, like I'm in the shower every morning, and during that time, like, what's the game plan today? What am I doing? And then you stick with that one goal and you hit it. And the days that I don't have that one thing that I need to do, I'm a mess. I'm like all over the place. I'm just like, on YouTube, outside, but I'm like not in one place. And I very much resonate with what you're saying. I think that's such a great strategy.
Yeah, being a former self-help junkie, I can say if you're out there and just consuming self-help book after self-help book, at some point you got to put them down,
Yeah.
deconstruct everything, just build your own kind of framework, because you just got to do what works for you, man. I think that's the key.
Yeah, nobody's the same. You're not going to know until you start implementing stuff and then trying stuff and then failing with it and then trying something else until it works.
Uh, Talking about trying stuff and failing when failing and learning and all that stuff, kind of applying that to your, I guess, your career, combining skills, talent stacking, trying stuff, failing, trying new things, failing. Have you been doing that to get to where you are today, or combining skills in unique ways, I guess?
Yeah, I would say, very much so. This is probably getting a little too content heavy for hopefully some of these people that are unfortunate, some device. But yes, I feel like combining skills in basically unique skills that you have can help you stand out. So I could relate this actually to a data science concept as well. But like for me, I love you can see like my camera over here. I love shooting video. I love having that artistic style, and I love telling a story. And YouTube's really helping with that. And then as far as like on YouTube, right? There's not a lot of creators that show this kind of stuff, this artistic side. I don't want to say artistic side. They're not really showing this type of aspect, right? Like, so I'll try to I'm spending time getting B-roll of like a computer or like a of an application and make sure the lighting's right and everything. And normally people aren't doing that kind of stuff. They're just like, okay, I'm gonna screen record this. I don't have time for this. But I feel in my case, this has, although there's like this video medium and this data science, it's helped me stand out. And I think that can help other people too. Like, you have to figure out what you're passionate about, what do you like doing, and especially if you like data science, how could you combine and merge these two worlds to get ahead and to show people a compelling story and to get people enticed? Because if you're just doing like another Titanic data set problem, it's like, well, everybody's done that. But if like you're a mountain biker and like you combine some like Python code to like count how many jumps you're doing or something, which I did, then maybe I think that's unique. I think that's a cool story. Obviously I'm biased, but I'm like, okay, that is something unique, and you combine it in a way that nobody's ever done before. And I think so many people can do this and help them stand out, and also be true to themselves and what they value and what they're interested in.
Talking about doing, like, I did see that the video you mentioned, the mountain biking and stuff.
It performed horrible, but thank you, I appreciate
it. There's another one that I really liked. I'm a huge fan of The Office. That is like my go-to show. Like, anytime I want to watch TV, I just put on The Office. And got a 2-year-old kid, and I've got him onto there as well. He
yep.
He loves watching Michael Scott. He thinks Michael Scott's a funny guy.
Okay, that's his favorite character.
Yeah. But you did a project using The Office. Talk to us about that project.
Yeah, so I was like, I'll probably stay away from the tutorials from now on doing them. But at the time, I was like, you see all these tutorials, and they were just doing like, nothing was like interesting, nothing was funny. I wanted something entertaining, and I wanted something different. And I was like, I wonder, like, I like The Office. I was watching it at the time. I was binge watching it at night, and I was like, I wonder if I could get data on this. And so I happened to just stumble across, I found like they had the seasons, and then I was like, I wonder if I could find like the script in data form. And then lo and behold, I did. I found the scripts, and I was like, this is like, I don't think people realize like that this data is just accessible. So I did this project and went through and analyzed the data in it. But I don't think people so realize like you can find something that you're passionate about. You can probably find data on it, or you can at least make the data on it. And that was really the goal of that tutorial series, to help people understand that you're not limited to just what's on Kaggle. You can go somewhere else and try to find stuff.
Curious. You mentioned you're kind of walking away from the tutorials and going in a different direction now. I'm curious about that. Why walk away from the tutorials? And I'm asking this kind of in a selfish manner because part of my job as a developer advocate is to create content. And my boss was pushing me earlier today. She's like, "Oh, you got to get more YouTube videos done." And I'm like, first of all, I'm too ugly for YouTube, and I'm an old man. I don't know if I can.
What? Are you kidding me? You look great, man.
But then the other issue was the tutorials. It's like, God, there's so many of them. Like, how do I do something different? So yeah, first let's go back to that the first part. Why go away from tutorials?
So the first and main reason is I don't have as much fun making them. And you should do what's like true to yourself. And I just don't have like building like this Power BI dashboard and then going on video and be like, okay, this is the steps, this is this step, and then this step, and then this step. It's just not entertaining to me. To your other point, it's especially on YouTube, it's very saturated. There's so many already good tutorials. Alex the Analyst, I'm not going to like infringe on his space. Like he's killing it over there. I can't compete with him. He does great tutorials. So those are sort of like the two main reasons. And I've shifted towards more of, I want to tell a story. Like I love like telling some sort of visual story. And these projects aren't aligned with that goal of telling that visual story via YouTube. So I've just shied away from it. And if people want a tutorial, I'm like, I'll point them in other people's directions. And I think it's great that they're doing it. I think they're needed out there. But it just, it doesn't align with me and where I want the channel to go, because I want to try to be, my goal is, especially with this, is try to make people understand how accessible this field is. We talked about before we started being like, we're not really like that smart in this field, but we're able to figure it out. And that's what I want people to realize. Like, it's not like, you don't have to be some super genius to get into this. Like if you're interested in learning more, I wanted to show that the barriers are pretty low to get in. And I feel I can do that, or at least I'm trying to do that. And I don't think I could do that with just a tutorial.
Yeah, I love it, man. That's awesome that you've kind of had that insight. You're like, all right, this is the thing that I want to do. This is what I feel like I can be the best in the world at. So let me double down on that and just go for it. Speaking about Alex the Analyst infringing, I was trying to get him to come crash the YouTube stream. I mean this live stream. I told him, hey, you should come crash the stream in character, because you guys did this recent video, what it's like to work with best friends, and I was like, it's hilarious. He's like, no, man, couldn't do that to him.
Alex is great. He's funny. It's funny. We have this like sort of joking arch nemesis thing going on. But he's like, he is such a nice guy and so willing, so accommodating. And so it's completely like, I hope I think people do understand, because I haven't got any questions about it. But we're not like really arch nemesis or anything like that. Like and we've talked about it before. Our content is very complementary. So like if I'm talking about Power BI, you can go over to his channel, learn about Power BI. And the same goes for him. If like, oh, he's like teaching Excel, like how is Excel used? Oh, you can go over to my channel. So I'm like, it's a great little friendship we have.
Yeah, I've got something on the, in the works with Alex and Medio, talking about, balancing life with kids and doing this content creation stuff. I just feel like my life is not balanced,
Medio has kids too.
He's got I think he has one or two kids.
I don't know how any of y'all do that with kids. Like I'm single, no kids, and it took 3 weeks to make this last video, and I'm single. Like I can't even comprehend it. I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, it's tough, man. Like I used to be up super early in the morning, like, be up at 5 a.m. and kind of handle stuff and do whatever I needed to do. But lately it's been tougher and tougher because my kid's not been sleeping well. He's going through some stuff for the longest time, just wasn't sleeping well. And now it's like, okay, well, I'll sleep now until whatever, 6:30, 7, and I'll wake up right when my kid wakes up, but then I'll play with him for like, an hour or so. which is far more fun than doing side hustle stuff.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely hampered productivity, but it's who cares, man? Like,
right. When you look back at life, you're gonna be like, did I wish that I was spending time with my kid or working on that that project?
Yep. So talking about taking your content in new directions, that's actually something that I'll be doing as well. There's a podcast I'm launching for the company that I'm working at, Desi, and I want it to be different than what I'm used to and what everybody's used to in data science. Everybody's kind of just used to two people talking, kind of like how we are now with data science podcast. The direction I want to take this podcast is kind of similar to like those podcasts that you'd hear on NPR, where they're telling, like you mentioned, a story. You got some background music. There'll be like sound effects, and then audio clips from talking to people, and then kind of weaving a narrative together around that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like what I've got in the back of my head for this new podcast that I'm launching for Desi.
Some like serial action.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, something like that.
That now got released.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was just watching that. That's crazy, man.
I know. I think I love this idea that you have. I think that I think that's a great idea. I love this.
Yeah, it's just trying to think through and get the story and the right sound bites and how it's going to come together. But yeah, folks, keep an eye out for that.
How did you get this with your company? Like, because they knew that you do your own podcast, so they wouldn't bring you on for this, or?
Yeah, so a part of the role, developer relations, developer advocacy. Part of the role is creating content, and part of creating content is podcasting. So there's a number of different things that this role entails. One of which, obviously, we mentioned creating content, but not only content for Twitter, LinkedIn, but creating virtual events and hosting webinars, building community, creating technical tutorials using our product and things like that. So yeah, podcasting kind of falls into that realm. Most Series A, Series B startups, mostly Series A startups, when you're a developer advocate for those companies, a lot of the stuff you're doing is marketing type of activities because you're the technical voice of the user. So you're bridging the company and the community together. You're like the conduit between the two. So you'll be doing a lot of awareness type of activities, such as creating podcasts. But yeah, there's the question coming in here from Shika that I like, and I'm going to modify just a little bit just to get it more specific. She's asking, what is the one thing you know now that you wish you would have learned sooner? I would want to kind of tailor that question and put the spin on that for content creation aspect. Or for your YouTube channel, what's the one thing you know now about YouTube that you wish you would have learned sooner?
The one thing I would learn, and I think this even could be related to even her question in a way, is that like you should start sooner than you expect, than you think you should. Like just launch something out there, especially with the content creation. Well, specifically for content creation idea, right? If like often I have people like, I got this great idea. I'm going to like make this great video and you just never see it. And it's because like they put too many restrictions in their way. And to be honest, even if they were to get that idea out, it's probably going to suck anyway. No offense, like my videos still suck, but they suck less. And you just gotta like throw stuff out there. You just gotta get going. And I think the same thing of wish I would know sooner and what I've learned. And I keep on talking about this recent video that I did, but everybody was just start applying for jobs before you're ready. Start like jump in before you're ready. And get comfortable with that rejection, because mainly you're not going to like the first opportunity that comes up to you or the first opportunity you see, it's probably not going to be fruitful. You're probably going to have a ton of failure. So get comfortable with that failure. And that's like the biggest thing that I've found. So it's just like,
just get started, start doing it.
Just jump in. I mean, it's easier said than done. But that's like, people ask me all the time about starting a YouTube channel, what they need and all this stuff. And I have like a list of like things that you buy and stuff like this. But I'm like the biggest thing, just listen to me. Just put something out there. Just put it tomorrow. Just put something out there. It's going to suck. Don't worry. Even if your friends don't even care, nobody cares. But you have such a perception. We have such perceptions worried about what other people think. They don't realize that we actually only care about what we think of ourselves more. And so like, if you launch this like LinkedIn post or whatever, and it's, even if it isn't that good, nobody's really going to care. And it's practice. You got to put in those reps.
Yeah, readiness I like to think of it's not binary, but like it's a spectrum, right? Like,
Yes.
I think when you're on the far left of the spectrum, when you consider yourself unready, you're probably more ready than you think you are. But then you kind of move along the spectrum of readiness by taking these small iterations and steps and just application and action.
Yeah. I mean, that would be and that would be actually, I would say that'd be such a shame for you to be on that spectrum, right? And be overly prepared and then start applying for a job, or then start making that. It's like you've just wasted so much time over preparing whenever you could have been putting yourself out there and growing.
A couple of comments coming in on LinkedIn here. Kelly Harding, what's going on? Kelly Harding, mathematician extraordinaire. I love it. She says, I have trouble with perfection when starting something. Sometimes you just gotta do it. Great advice. My good friend Emily Lewis. Emily, what's going on? Emily says, I would add that honesty in your content is a huge thing. Just speak casually and approach everything as a conversation.
Yes. Yeah. The perfection. Yeah. It sounds like you and me are very much, have problems with that. Like, it's just like, sometimes we just like, you can't be, you have to be okay with the imperfect and getting it out there.
One thing that I really struggle with is, and it's, sounds stupid saying it out loud, but like comparison a lot, right? Like,
yes.
I look at, my follower growth, my content, and it's like, okay, it's not growing as fast as XYZ person, or it's not getting as much engagement as XYZ person, and that really has like a negative effect on me. And you're up there with the Kenjis and Alex and Tina.
I don't consider that, but yeah.
But do you how did you overcome that? Is that something that you felt kind of towards the beginning of your career?
Yeah, I mean, that just all through life, right? I mean, when I was in the Navy, we were like, they literally, because it's like it's the military, they can do these type of things. They like rank you against each other, like putting your names, where you're ranked against classmates. I know when going through this submarine program where I'm ranked, it's just like, they're always comparing, and, it's just ingrained into you, like, oh, this person is here. Like, why have I not got to that level? Ken G's at 200,000 subscribers. Why have I not gotten to that yet? And a friend said to me one day, and it's like really resonated with me, is like, comparison is the thief of joy. And it's so true. And so I've taken like in my personal life, right? I do CrossFit. I keep on talking about CrossFit today. I do CrossFit, but it's a very, they have software systems at our gym that you can put in your score, and you can see where you rank with other people at the gym. I don't even do that anymore. It's just because that's where I'm at now. It's just, I don't want to. I'm only competing with myself, and I think that's what people should understand. The only person that you're trying to be better than is the person you were yesterday, and so that's what I try to strive for. So like YouTube, I have analytics, and it will tell me how my video is compared to past videos, and I don't even I've sort of disabled that page. I don't even go there anymore. I just go straight to the comments, and I'll just understand and read the comments and see what they're doing, and to have a better feel. And I try not to focus too much on like, well, Alex is about to hit 300,000 subscribers, and I'm not, like, whatever. I'm not we're all in our own race. We're all having our own problems, and you don't realize what maybe somebody else is going through. There's other people that have so many subscribers, and then you talk to them and you realize they're going through such emotional and such problems themselves. And it's like, oh, I thought you were like, you're like, you have so many subscribers. You should be like the happiest person in the world. And come to find out, like they have so many issues, personal issues, not saying they're bad. They're just saying like they're having problems in life. And it's so weird. You can't, I'm going on like a very big soapbox right now. I apologize. But it's so weird because sometimes you're comparing to this person and come to find out like they're not even happy. And so you really just have to take a step back and understand, like, you just got to compare yourself to yourself. and that's it. And try to be better than you were yesterday.
I absolutely love that. Like, nobody can compete with you on being you, right? So if you're just being authentic and being yourself,
Right.
then that's a race everyone's going to lose. So just kind of, I guess, like, I know it for myself. I know when I'm trying too hard, and it shows in, when I put out a Twitter thread or when I put out a LinkedIn post. Like, I know when I'm trying too hard, and I feel like the other people know as well. And
They know, and they'll comment,
Yeah.
and they'll let you know. And then you're like, dang it, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
It's so, but then when you're authentic, and I'm sure you've seen it too, right? When you've been authentic and you've done something that you like and you've gotten positive, it's like it's a great experience. It's like, oh, I want to repeat this. I want to do this again.
A couple of good comments coming in. Russell Willis, good friend Russell Willis, saying imperfect is not be a failure. Imperfect can still be amazing. Sheikah saying she likes that comparison is a thief of joy. She's gonna borrow that line. It's a good line, man. I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go ahead and let's start to wrap it up, and we're running up on time here. I like to do my traditional kind of closing question before going into like what I call this random round, as if this conversation hasn't been random enough already. But I open up like a proper random question generator and everything. So that question is 100 years in the future, what do you want to be remembered for?
Oh, that's I think about this actually. I think about this quite a bit more recently. Like, what do you be remembered as? My parents passed away recently, and so I just like think of their legacy and what they, what kind of an impression. I reflect a lot of their life now, and what type of a impression they left on me. And it's so crazy. We talked about imperfection, and at the time when they're alive, I think a lot about their imperfection. But now I think a lot about their overarching goals and what they were trying to do and what they were trying to help, me. And so what would I, in like 100 years, man, I hope, so I want to continue this YouTube thing. And I mean, yeah, I don't want to be known as like, sure, it'd be nice to be a YouTuber, but I'd be like to be known as somebody that was able to like bridge that gap, somebody that was a good storyteller that could convince people of their worth and help them to achieve their goals. And so I'm doing that now with data analysts, hoping to branch further into a bigger spectrum of data science in the future and just continue to grow the channel. But that's what I'm hoping to get into and have that sort of impact with helping others.
Thank you, man. Thank you for sharing that. That's so sorry to hear about your loss. Can't imagine what that's like. And yeah, that's some good tips that I'm going to keep in mind as I'm raising my kid, man. I'm hoping to have that same kind of impression.
Heck yeah. Well, you seem like you're doing a good job, spend the time in the morning and not just getting to work. Like, I mean, you're never going to regret that. And you know that.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and jump into the random round here. I've got to ask, man, what's the longest consecutive amount of time that you spent in a submarine?
Yeah. So 4 months. And yeah, 4 months underwater, like closing the hatch, going down. We don't, go down for 4 months, come back. And we did basically 3 to 4 month deployments, like back to back. So we'd come in for a month and then we'd go back out for another 3 to 4 months. So I spent, along with like our practice and our workups, I spent like 2 years in total, close to 2 years in total underwater.
What the fuck, dude? 4 months underwater.
Yeah, it's because I'm like appreciating my 30s right now. I'm in my mid 30s, and I'm like, I can recall my 30s. I mean, obviously because it's relevant. But to like, I got to 28, and I was like, holy, like I was like, I remember being 22, and then all of a sudden I was like 20. Like, I'm not lying, it just like flew by. Whereas like 30 to 35, it was like it didn't fly by. And that's one of the reasons I got out of the military, because it was just like holy smokes, where did the time go? I just like, so I like being outside now.
Yeah. I mean, I can definitely identify with the 20s going by, like what the hell happened. But mine was because I was just spent all that time on drugs and not doing anything productive with life. But yeah, dude, what's it like on a submarine? So it's like, okay, 4 months, like we're underwater. Was it like, where were you traveling in between? Or was it just stationary?
Yeah, so So unfortunately, I can't talk about like where I went.
Yeah.
But I'll just say, so I was stationed up in Washington State. We have a submarine port up there,
Mhm.
and we would go out, and it is unclassified. That our submarines are made for intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. So we may be going somewhere and surveilling or getting people or whatever. I probably said too much already.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we'll go out for, like I said, 4 months. Come back. Sometimes we would like on our way out, not that 4 month that we went on that I'll talk about, but another one we went with the supply. We're out. We'll stop in Hawaii. We'll make port calls and stuff. But yeah, so really you go out, you're living, and what's it like is you're working. I would work for like 6 hours. I would go I was in the engine room. I was like a manager in charge of the engine room leading that, or I was up front of the submarine leading operations to drive the submarine. And I was doing that for 6 hours, and then you had 12 hours off. And that normally actually, that time off was normally spent, I was in charge of a division, and I had to go and like manage, be like a little paper pusher with stuff that had to get done with that. And then finally, maybe you get some time to work out. If I have some free time, I'd play Mario Kart with my friends. And then besides that, go back to sleep and then repeat that 18-hour process just over and over again for 4 months.
Wow.
Yeah, and no days off. Yeah, you're working every single day.
How big are these things? Are they like the size of an airplane or bigger than an airplane?
Bigger
Or
than that. So like the size of a football field or a soccer field.
that's how big a submarine is?
That long. Yes, that long. And it's about our smallest ones are about 40 feet in diameter, so about 3 feet, 3 stories. Interesting enough, because we're on these shifts, right? Where we had 3 different shifts. There was 150-ish people on board. But I actually went sometimes that 3-4 month deployment without seeing some people because we were on different shifts. And it's crazy, like that close to somebody, living within a football field distance of somebody. And I didn't see them for
Wow.
3 or 4 months. So, but also we didn't have like communication with the outside world, that much communication. Like we would get some news and stuff like that, but I couldn't log on the internet. I couldn't send girlfriend, parents a text or anything like that. Like they just knew I was away. When I came back, I would shoot a text and tell them I'm back.
Wow, dude. That's wild, man. I can't even just thinking about being in a submarine right now. Like I'm like feeling like I can't breathe. Like just
They like close the hatch that first time, and it's like it's just like it kills your soul. And they have this is probably getting too much into it, but they have like the conservation of energy theory.
Mhm.
They have a thing called conservation of happiness. And so when the hatch is shut, there's a finite amount of happiness on board the submarine. And the only way to get that happiness is by stealing it from others. And so you would routinely see people doing practical jokes or doing like playing jokes on people or doing like sort of mean things to them to steal happiness from other people and then and gain some happiness. So we were really a crude bunch of people.
That's interesting, man. I like that conservation of happiness.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and go to the actual random question generator here. First question is, that's not the first question. What would you do on a free afternoon in the middle of the week besides go on a podcast with me?
Heck yeah. Mountain biking. I'm in Arkansas, and we're self-titled the mountain bike capital of the world. So I have trails right outside my house, and that's really why I moved here. So I try to at least bike every single day. Yeah. And so that's what I'll be doing.
What mountain range are you close to?
Oh, well, the Ozarks, but
Okay,
it's not really, we say mountain bike capital of the world. It's not like I don't look out. It's pretty flat out here, but there's
Okay.
hills, and the Ozarks are very rolling-ish around here.
Nice.
And so it's actually really good because then you sprint up like like half a mile or a mile. You're at the top, and then you can come on down. You can just repeat that multiple times here.
Nice. What is one of your favorite smells?
One of my favorite smells. I like lavender. Love me some lavender.
Nice. What bends your mind every time you think about it?
What bends my mind every time I think about? like life after death. Where do we go? And like living forever. I mean, I'm a Christian, so I believe in going to heaven. And it's just like the infinite life just like sort of bends my mind.
Yeah, yeah. So you talk about law of, you mentioned law of conservation of energy. I've got my own kind of weird theory about that.
Yeah.
I view the entire universe as a closed system. So
Okay.
law of conservation of energy, if you think about each of us individually, there's some energy in us, right? Obviously.
Hmm.
But when we die, that I don't think that energy gets destroyed. It just gets transferred into this closed system,
Ah.
right? So that
Yeah.
transference of energy could be, energy helping this potted plant grow, or it could go into even like another life or something like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I try to apply some pseudoscience physics to my belief
I like
system.
that. I
But
like
yeah,
that. That gives me something to think about.
yeah.
That-
Right on, man. Well, Luke, thank you so much for taking time. I just scheduled to be on the show today, man. I appreciate you being here.
Heck yeah. Thank you so much for having me. This was a heck of a time. I had so much fun doing this. I hope you have me back on again in the future.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it. This has been a great conversation.
Absolutely, man. And you are always welcome to come by the Data Science Happy Hours, man. Would absolutely love to have you there. I know it's Friday afternoon, so time's a little bit weird, but hopefully you could make it to one of those in the future.
Heck yeah.
And so I have a customary sign off that I do, and just given our discussion about life after death and whatever, it might sound weird saying this, but my friends, remember, you've got one life on this planet. Why not try to do something big? Cheers, everyone.